everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for being here today. It means a lot to me, out of respect for your time, because we have a lot of things to do today. I'll try and be very quick. I usually tell myself to slow down, but I'm going to try to be quick today and still make sense to you. Hope everybody is doing well today. You're here, soaking up the Dharma, ready to do the work. It's like eating a power green salad for your mind. Today I would like to talk about balance. Balance. I brought a prop actually. Balance. Here's a little Zen story for you. I don't know where it came from, but I found it on the Quantum Zen's website, and I've heard it before. Maybe you have too. Once a student went to the Zen master and said, "My meditation is horrible. I feel so distracted. My legs hurt. Sometimes I fall asleep. It's just horrible." The teacher replied, "Don't worry, it will pass." A week later, the student came back. He went to his teacher and he said, "My meditation is wonderful. I feel so aware, so peaceful, so alive. It's just wonderful." The teacher said, "Don't worry, it'll pass." I want to talk specifically about a type of balance in your life. The type where maybe we're swinging a little to one way, maybe we're swinging a little the other way. Maybe we swing back one way, maybe we swing another way. Sometimes we even swing and swing for a long time, and swing until we get tired of swinging and we maybe feel a pull. And now we're like, we're going to swing the other way. And we start a long swing the other way. Sometimes we're swinging and we smack into something because we swung way too hard and we fall back. I thought about this topic because I think a lot, not only about myself, which I do think a lot about myself in my own experience, but I think a lot about the Sangha and your guys' experience. I like to think about our community and how everybody's getting along, what's going on in your lives. And I know a few of you outside of the temple, and I have some friends, some neighbors, but most of it, I meet you in the temple, and I talk to you in the temple, and my interaction with you is what we do in the temple, how often I see you, and what you share with me. I see some people come and go and never see them again. I see some people come a lot and then go and never see them again. I see some people come a lot and I still see them over and over again. I see people come sometimes and then not come other times, and then a long time later they come back, or a short time later they come back. All sorts of people. Lots of different interactions with me and with the temple. I wonder what they're up to. I wonder what lives you're leading. And I would like to say right now that it is okay to not come to the temple sometimes. We do carry with us this a little bit of guilt. There needs to be a little bit of guilt to maintain. Just enough guilt to keep in the back of your mind, this is good for you, right? We want that accountability. We want you to be accountable to yourself, right? It's like a treadmill that sits in the corner of the basement, and you just see it every time you go to the basement to do laundry, and sometimes you hang some towels on it to dry. And you look at it and you think like, I did feel good when I was running for a while. I'm going to start running again. And then you forget about it until the next time you come to do laundry. We do want to encourage you to come to the temple. We do want you to hold yourself accountable for what's good for you. But while I think it would help everyone, I don't know that it will help everyone. And people have all sorts of different paths in this life. Life is crazy. I get an amen? Amen. Life is crazy.
Amen.
Thank you. We all have different lifestyles. We all have different considerations. And we all have different karma that we need to deal with. And we do most of this alone. Truly. We don't want it that way. That's not what the song is for, but most of it we do alone. Henry David Thoreau said, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." Most people spend their lives quietly yearning, quietly struggling. Unfortunately, that reflects a lot of the struggles that I see. And yet, even though we have lots of stress that's hard to explain to other people because it's our stress, it's in our lives, it's from our own predicaments, our own situations, it's true that we have this in common. We do have this in common, that we all have stress. We're all fighting our own battles, we're all dealing with the stress. We do have that in common. It's not always the same stress, but we're all dealing with it. This, in fact, is the first thing that Gautama Buddha taught. The first noble truth. We can call this stress dukkha. This is the foundational truth. Actually, this is where we start our practice, with the first noble truth. If you listen to the words of the Buddha, put your hands in hot jump. Friends, just as the footprint of any living being that walks can be placed within an elephant's footprint, and so the elephant's footprint is declared the chief of them because of its great size, so too, all wholesome states can be included in the Four Noble Truths. In what four? In the noble truth of suffering, in the noble truth of the origin of suffering, in the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, and in the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So ends the reading. It's Majjhima Nikaya 28. Though we live different lives, different struggles, different stresses, we all deal with it, starting with the first noble truth. That dukkha exists might seem simple, tautological, insignificant. Yeah, it exists, so what? But it's really the beauty of this whole practice. It is really simple, but it's also the most significant teaching. To see clearly the first noble truth is to practice true acceptance and seeing clearly. I have another reading for you. If you put your hands in hot jump, the words of the Buddha. Once the Blessed One was staying at Kunsambi in the Samsa tree grove. Then, picking up a few Samsa leaves with his hand, he asked the monks, "What do you think, monks? Which are more numerous, the few Samsa leaves in my hand, or those overhead in the grove?" They replied, "The leaves in the hand of the Blessed One are few in number, Lord. Those overhead in the grove are far more numerous." In the same way, monks, those things that I have known with direct knowledge but have not taught are far more numerous than the things I have taught. And why haven't I taught them? Because they are not connected with the goal, do not relate to the rudiments of the holy life, and do not lead to disenchantment, dispassion, and cessation, to calm, to direct knowledge, to self-awakening, to unbinding. That is why I have not taught them. And what have I taught? This is stress. This is the origination of stress. This is the cessation of stress. This is the path of practice leading to the cessation of stress. This is what I have taught. And why have I taught these things? Because they are connected with the goal, relate to the rudiments of the holy life, and lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to calm, to direct knowledge, to self-awakening, to unbinding. This is why I have taught them. Therefore, your duty is the contemplation. This is stress. This is the origination of stress. This is the cessation of stress. This is the path of practice leading to the cessation of stress. So ends the reading. That was Samhita Nikaya 56. acceptance. That doesn't magically give you the answers to your problems. However, it's the first step and the most important. How are you going to work on yourself if you don't accept who you are? If you don't accept what the problem is? Seeing perfectly, clearly, without any delusions, one might find true Buddha nature below all the schmutz in our life. That's the path to enlightenment. But there's a difference between acceptance and seeing clearly and seeing perfectly clearly. We can see a little clear and not be perfectly clear. There's a lot of dust in our eyes, a lot of the kleshas obscuring the way forward. That's why even in all of my wisdom, I still make bad choices daily. I have no doubt that I've seen a path forward in this life, that it's the Buddhist path here that I follow. I've accepted the Buddha Dharma, I practice faithfully. But though I see it, I'm going to put it this way, though I clearly see a path, I don't see a clear path. I clearly see a path, but I don't see a clear path. I have a lot of shit to deal with. I'm guessing you do too. I don't always know what the right thing to do is, what the right way forward is. This is where the balance comes in. There's no single kernel of wisdom that'll guide you forward. No single kernel of wisdom. Not in all situations. Sure, we have the eightfold path. You can practice right view, right intention, right speech, right action. But I hope I'm not alone in saying I'm not always sure what the right speech is or what the right action is. Imagine yourself like you're a wanderer in a desert and there's a sandstorm kicked up, right? The kleshas are the dust that's swirling all around you and you can't see forward. You don't know which way to go. Don't think about the practice as like an arrow that's going to point you to what direction you go. But maybe think about it more like some kind of a wall. Whereas you start traveling in a direction, you bump into the wall, and that's telling you that's not which way to go, but don't go that way. The Buddha didn't give a finite number of speeches. He was a man, remember, lived to the ripe age of 80. He was a man. He didn't give these speeches 2,500 years ago to know exactly what Bulji is supposed to do tomorrow when he has a fight with his mother. Okay? He wasn't thinking exactly that and then told these monks in the grove exactly what he should do. No. The practice, I might regret saying this one day, but think of the practice like a boundary. You might bump into it sometimes. It's not telling you exactly where to go, but it's telling you where not to go. We all know this in certain areas of our life. Consider you're a spouse, or if you're not a spouse, you're a partner of somebody, or you're a child, or you're a parent of somebody. And you've had arguments in these intimate relationships, right? And have you ever heard the slogan, pick your battles? Has anybody ever heard the slogan, pick your battles? Right? What does that mean? Sometimes you don't know what the right thing to say is in an argument, to end it, to solve it. But you know that maybe you shouldn't say that one thing. Maybe that's the thing you shouldn't say because you have experience, you're wise enough, you know not to head down that path. Maybe not even because it's not the right thing to say, but it's not the right time to say it. Or the person that you're saying it to isn't in the right place. This could be a little frustrating, hearing one more person in the world, me, telling you what not to do. A little gatekeeping for you, right? Doom and gloom. Instead of giving you something constructive, like here's what you do, here's what you do. But consider that this really can be helpful. The path forward is different for every person. Right choices are not simple and easy. Acceptance. You don't often have things come to a head where you're at a crossroads in life and you pick the way forward and that's the rest of your life. That happens in the movies. That happens in good stories. You know, you get to the climax and you pick the thing and you go forward. That doesn't happen in real life. That's the difference between stories and real life. The Buddha chose to become a wandering ascetic, and then everything just fell into place after that. That's not how it really happened. It's a nice story, and that was part of what happened, but that was part of a story, not the whole story. Right action, right speech is less of a single action and more of a practice over time. It's a practice, not a philosophy. It's not something to know, it's something to do. And since it's so subtle, it's hard to talk about, it's hard to describe. But it's easier to see what the path is when you start getting a little too far off the path. Let me ask you, how many chocolate chip cookies should you eat in a day? Does anybody have an answer there? If you say one, I've lost all faith in you, I don't trust you anymore. Is that the number for everybody? All people should eat just one chocolate chip? No. Maybe between 2 and 10 sounds okay to me, right? Like a gradient. Somewhere in there. I don't know what the right number is, but it's probably between there. Could be different for you than it is for me. But everybody can tell when you've had too many chocolate chip cookies in a day, right? Everybody knows that feeling. It's not easy to pin down how many is the right number, but it's easy to pin down if it's been too much. Or in baking. I'm not baking, so this is all conjecture. I don't know how to do this, but you're making a pasta sauce, right? And you have to put the salt in. How much salt goes in a pasta sauce? I don't think there's a number for it. In fact, I think the best recipes say like a smidge or a pinch of salt, right? You don't measure like 6 grams of salt. Somebody probably does some, or Prego does, in their factory or whatever. But people who are really good at cooking, they put in a little and taste it, right? Put in a little, taste it. Put in too much, throw it out and start over because it's too much. They know when it's too much. The right amount, you don't know how much it is until you taste it. I must be hungry. We better get on this. Too many food analogies. Take this idea with you, the balance, right? Between the extremes. Apply that to your practice. Perhaps you worry about meditating every day. I need to meditate every day. You don't need to meditate every day. You don't need to. You don't need to worry about it. The worry is getting away from the practice. You can skip a day, it's fine. The meditation isn't the point. Here's a little story for you. A young Buddhist monk approached his teacher and asked the Zen master, if I meditate very diligently, how long will it take me to attain enlightenment? The master thought about it and said, 10 years. The student then said, what if I work even harder? What if I really apply myself and I'm a fast learner? How long then? 20 years. He said, but if I really, really work at it, how long until I attain enlightenment then? If I really work hard? 30 years, the master said. It'll take you 30 years at that rate. But I don't understand. Each time I work harder, you say it's going to take longer. The master replied, when you have one eye on the goal, you can only have one eye on the path. Meditation isn't the goal. But if you're never sitting, is your mind in a whirlwind all day? Are you ever quieting your mind? Are you ever doing the practice? Then you need to sit more. Don't worry about what the number is. Don't worry about the days a week. Don't worry if it's been a minute or a month. Just notice the extremes. Swing, swing, swing. We swing back and forth. That's the problem. You swing back and forth forever, and it is a recipe for a mental breakdown. Maybe some of us have been there. You can't swing back and forth between the extremes. It can be hard to slow the pendulum. You get a pendulum going, it's very hard to just bring it to a stop without something drastic, right? The pendulum has to slow down. So you need to go easy on yourself. Keep the middle path in mind, seeing clearly that we're swinging one way or the other. We can slow that pendulum down to where it's just swinging a little bit in each direction. It might never be still, because still is a really tough thing to do with the pendulum. It's always swinging a little bit, but we can get it to swing less. Somewhere in the middle is where we want to be. carry this idea of the middle path with you. Don't stress about the way forward. Just carry the idea of the middle path, not the extremes. Do your best not to be a huge jerk. And don't let other people be a huge jerk to you. I truly believe that when we quiet our minds, we start to see clearly, and we stay away from the extremes naturally. That's our Buddha nature coming out. Don't worry exactly about what we're going to do, about what the right action is, what the right speech is, before it happens. If you're doing this practice, when you get there, you'll know what to do. I believe that. So I don't know what everybody's up to. I don't know what's going on in your lives. I like to know. I like to know more. Fact of the matter is, I'll never know perfectly. But I do hope that whatever you're doing, you're getting a little bit of that clarity. You're staying away from the extreme things that can really hurt us. I don't know what's always right. You don't know what's always right. You don't know what's ahead. But you practice the middle path, and I'm sure that when you get there, you will know. You will know what to do. Not up here maybe, but in here. With that, that's the end of my talk. Look at that. I was actually thinking that maybe I would do a couple, but that was too hard to do. I just thought it was